Warhammer 40K has a seriously massive amount of lore, going back nearly 40 years now, and there are some rare gems to be found in the most obscure tomes and relics that are now lost to time, but once were shining symbols of the setting. Today we're going to look at one of these rare birds, going all the way back to 2003, to the Warhammer 40K spin-off role-playing game, Inquisitor. For in the depths of this long-forgotten game, there lies a space tomb, and interred within it, a being of immeasurable power. Some say it is the template from which the Emperor crafted the Primarchs themselves. Yes, I'm talking about the Angel, known colloquially, now 22 years later, as the Angel of Destruction. This superbeing is nearly a god. Its power is on such a scale that entire worlds crumble under his wrath. But with this particular creation of the Emperor of Mankind, how he's treated in the real world, in our world, is the same as in the lore. He's been locked up, sealed away on a distant, forgotten world, and to even know of his existence is heresy of the highest order, because unlike most of the Emperor's weapons, this one is hell-bent on destroying chaos. That is all the Angel lives for, and eventually, he came to believe that all humans were susceptible to falling to chaos, and thus, all humans, well, we should die as well. This is why he had to be sealed away, locked up, and forgotten. And leave it to the Inquisition to fumble this one, and let him out. So the Emperor created this being before the Primarchs, and it was said to be twice the height of a man, which I'd put at an average of just about 12 feet tall. He was able to fly on huge pinions, much like Sanguinius, who the Emperor may have created as a nod to this original angel. He was wreathed in a glowing blue halo, and he carried a sword that was made of a blue flame. The Angel was impervious to physical harm, for the most part. It could slow him down a bit, but he'd always recover. It is thought by some within the Inquisition that he cannot be physically destroyed, that he is something the Emperor pulled from the warp and infused into a body that was rendered completely impervious, a template for the perpetual Primarch Vulcan, and possibly for Alfarius and Russ as well, if you've seen my video on the Trefoil Legions and their Primarchs. The Angel was set upon the galaxy by the Emperor with the sole purpose of purging chaos and destroying it. And it was amazing at it. Before the Great Crusade, before the Emperor had revealed the truth of the warp and its denizens to anyone, the Angel was intended to be the scourge of chaos across the galaxy. He was magnetically drawn to the taint of the warp, and could sense chaos like a shark smelling chum in the water. He could not resist destroying it, so hardwired was his purpose. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention, he's completely impervious to psychic attack as well. In the Angel, the Emperor created the perfect killing machine, a superweapon that could end entire worlds, destroying entire populations of billions in the course of an afternoon. He was as effective as a Space Marine Legion or an Inquisitorial Exterminatus. Where the Angel went, ruin followed. He was literally Warhammer 40K's version of the Archangel Michael. He was the destroyer of worlds. And when the Angel turned on mankind, it was not pretty. Keep in mind, he was not created to protect the Imperium. He was not created to protect mankind, to be a defense for humans. No, he was created to destroy, to end chaos completely and utterly. And so the Angel made the same choice that the Alpha Legion did, to sacrifice mankind in order to defeat chaos, though the Angel had no attachment to humanity like the Alpha Legion did. And when the time came to stop the Angel's rampage against humanity, only the Emperor himself could do it. And he had to use his guile, his trickery, and his deceit to accomplish such a Herculean task. It was not by force, neither physical nor psychic, that the Angel was subdued. It was through taking advantage of the unbendable nature of the being. But the tale of the Angel begins during the Pacification of Terra, when the Emperor was unifying humanity, before the Great Crusade, and bringing the planet under his banner. Little known to the people of Terra, there was a very powerful demon giving him all sorts of trouble and really mucking things up for the unification. Chaos was still unknown to humanity, and the Thunder Warriors wouldn't be much help, so the Emperor created the Angel. How he did it is lost to time, but it is known that he did make some serious mistakes when making this being, and it did not come out quite right. Well, that's one way to put it. But the demon that was giving humanity such intense trouble fled Terra before the Emperor's wrath, and he fled into the stars to the planet Caris Sephilon. Faraguatia was the demon's name, and it was one of those incredibly powerful entities like Samus or Drachnian. So the Emperor dispatched the angel to hunt this monster down and destroy it. And he went for it as well, and the two of them together, well, they were able to defeat the demon, imprisoning it in the planet's bedrock. It wasn't destroyed, but it was subdued and imprisoned. After that, the angel went on a tear and found a planet with a city that he deemed full of humans who were, well, to put it mildly, unworthy of the Emperor's light and love, and he destroyed the city of Karanis in a single night, killing every living thing. And he then went on to wipe out all remaining life on the planet, delivering a full exterminatus to the world and leaving it a dead husk. The Emperor realized that his creation was unhinged and was a rabid dog off the chain, so he devised a master plan. He lured the angel back into his resting place, a coffin that served as the angel's abode. Big E put a chunk of the demon Faraguatia into the coffin, and the angel flew in to destroy it. And so the Emperor was able to seal the coffin shut and lock it using several wards and psychic locks. Whatever the angel was, whatever amazing level of being it was, the coffin that held him was an artifact on an equal level. The angel was sent back to Terra, and the Emperor had it basically scheduled to be destroyed, something he would most likely have to do himself, maybe with the help of the Custodes or Malcador, or both. But someone stole the coffin and smuggled it off-world. Now, nobody knows for sure who did that, but my guess is it was Alpha Legion related. Stealing something from the Emperor that powerful, secreting it away, and even knowing it existed in the first place all reek of Alpha Legion. The angel's whereabouts went unknown for millennia. This is where the Inquisition enters, and the folly of Inquisitor Liechtenstein, in particular, comes into play. Liechtenstein was looking for the Librarium Hereticus, the thrice-damned library, for what must have been a totally radical reason that Puritans would call heresy of the highest order of magnitude. And so he freed a fragment of Faraguatia's consciousness to consult it, thinking it would help him in his heretical endeavor. But being a demon, Faraguatia totally tricked Liechtenstein and got the Inquisitor to open a warp portal, that the demon was able to use to materialize again, setting it free once more. Or it would have, without the intervention of Inquisitor Kessel, a rival of Liechtenstein's, and he interrupted the opening of the warp gate. Then, the demon was later thought destroyed after it again attempted to free itself by possessing the body of a psyker. But this time the demon did get out, and it tore across the world, amassing a following of corrupted heretics. Eventually, it possessed the body of Cardinal Kadaska of the Ecclesiarchy, after its followers kidnapped the Cardinal and conducted a ritual that allowed the demon to possess him and take him over. And this is why the Inquisition exists. It seems like it's always the pious folks at the Ecclesiarchy that end up possessed by super demons and causing disruption throughout the Imperium. But Faraguatia was not easily stopped. The Inquisition was unable to defeat him, and he was taking control more and more. So they had to do something. So they searched through all the ancient tomes they could find in the Sephilon Institute of Ecclesiastical Antiquities, and they finally found a book that was thousands of years old that detailed how to awaken the angel and how to put it to rest again. They discovered that the angel was still on Sephilon itself, hidden deep in the ruins of the Amethyst Palace in stasis in its coffin. And this is where the main fun of the Inquisitor Death of an Angel campaign came in, as the radical and Puritan factions of the Inquisitors fought each other over who was going to possess the angel and who was going to use it, etc. But as they're fighting, the demon prince Faraguatia shows back up and is ready to destroy his old foe, the angel. Or at least, this is the demon's intention. The Inquisition holds the demon back as best it can, but it is a losing battle. So they quickly work to unseal all the wards on the glowing stasis coffin and free the Angel of Destruction. And well, he comes out pissed. They engaged one another and a mighty battle ensued. As two forces of nature, like completely or seemingly unstoppable in their own right, smash on one another. Every time one of the combatants falls, a giant crater is smashed into the ground. They're really going at it, the unstoppable force and the immovable object. Eventually, the angel does get the better of the demon prince and impales the beast on its sword. The angel rises into the air and hurls the body of the demon to the ground. At first, it appeared to be a massive victory for the Inquisition and the Imperium over an ancient and sinister foe. But the angel immediately turned on the Inquisitors and their retinues, and they knew that they could not stand before it. Yes, the perfect weapon was so broken that it was going to go back to its original plan of completely destroying mankind. In the mind of the angel, it was inevitable that all humans fall to chaos, as it saw us as weak-willed. It had contempt for the faithful. Yet there was nothing that could redeem us in the eyes of the being, the sleeper, the angel of destruction. And the Inquisitors knew they were totally screwed. The rival factions that had recently been pitted against one another would not even be able to endure as a team, as they still lacked sufficient abilities to stand against the ultimate weapon. This is where the players in the campaign really had to use their heads, because there was only one way to defeat the angel. Quickly consulting the tome, they discovered that they must do what the Emperor himself did. So as best they can, and while fending off the superweapon itself, they read the passages that told them what to do, and they gathered the body of Faraguesha, or whatever piece of it they could, and threw it into the coffin. And the angel flew into it, as it honed in on the demon flesh and ignored the inquisitorial agents. Once inside, they used what powers they could to lock the wards and seals and imprison the angel once again within his stasis coffin, just as the Emperor had done millennia before. With the angel subdued and sleeping once more, the mission was a success. Soon huge numbers of inquisitorial troops descended upon the world of Sephilon, formerly Caris Sephilon, way back in the Unification Wars days, and a grip of Inquisitor lords came with them. Eventually, the angel was taken into custody by the Inquisitor lords, and is now believed to still be safe in the hands of the Inquisition. Me personally, I'd have put that coffin in one of the black cells or somewhere that would contain it, even if it did breach its stasis coffin. The webway, maybe? I don't know. Now, this piece of Warhammer lore may just be obscure, old, niche, and forgotten, but it is very telling on several levels. First, I really like that it comes from Inquisitor, as I feel that that particular game really upped the ante. It raised the stakes on what the community expects out of the lore and the setting. Nothing, in my opinion, at that time, so 2003, was pushing the envelope and expanding the setting like Inquisitor. I wish they'd bring this game back, as it was truly awesome, and unique for a Warhammer game. I remember there were a lot of White Dwarf articles around then about narrative campaigns that went from one game to another. Planetary Assault for 40K was preceded by a Battlefleet Gothic space battle. Then after the Ground War, the Inquisition sifts through the wreckage and aftermath with the role-playing game. Then another faction arrives, and a ground war to end all ground wars breaks out, and that has to be resolved by a game of epic scale, Warhammer 40K. It truly was a time that the setting was being fleshed out like no other. And they really encouraged us to participate in that, and to use the one thing Games Workshop's corporate mindset hates today, our imaginations. Now, I did a short video last week, vaguely touching on this subject, as it was only 1 minute long, but I thought the angel deserved a bit more of a thorough deep dive. While there isn't much to know about it, and all that there is comes from the one campaign book, it is definitely some fun lore. The unstoppable superweapon that goes off the rails and becomes our own destruction. It speaks to the Emperor's desperation on some levels, and his hubris on others. And remember that at this time, they were really just starting to do those Index Astartes articles in White Dwarf, so we were just getting the first real information about the Primarchs, other than a few lines that mention them in passing in the 2nd edition codices and the early 3rd edition ones. The angel fit in really well into the setting at that time, giving us a glimpse into the kind of projects that the Emperor engaged in, and how his mind was working before he created the Primarchs and the Adeptus Astartes. Me personally, I'd like to see the sleeper awaken, to see the angel return, and have to be dealt with. The one thing that I don't like about it, and I feel that it is because it was designed for a role-playing game scenario, is that it has to be defeated in the way it does. I mean, it smashed Faraguacia, and then it turned on the Inquisition, so it had already dealt with the demon. So why did it fly back to its coffin to destroy the dead flesh of the demon? It makes little sense, unless it was super offended that something so foul was within its stasis chamber, its coffin, that it had to go there immediately, compelled to get it out. But it doesn't seem that way. It seems like it was put together rather quickly and it wasn't given too much deep thought. Gav Thorpe wrote the scenario, and he was stretched very, very thin by Games Workshop at the time. They had him writing nearly all the codices and rulebooks for half a dozen games, including Warhammer Fantasy Battles, 40K, Inquisitor, plus White Dwarf articles and Black Library books too. He was a madman working hard in 2003, apparently. But I must point out that there are more typos in the Death of an Angel campaign book than anywhere else in a Warhammer book that I have ever seen. The Angel truly is a fun piece of lore, a fun campaign to play, and really adds in a lot of that old school flavor. From the era that I consider the real-world Age of Darkness, as the setting was just coming into its own in a big way, it's from the time when the Battle of Escrador appeared in Index Astartes, and they didn't have a solid roadmap of what did and what was going to happen. The setting was still fresh, exciting, and though it wasn't new at the time, it still gave us that feeling of wonder as they were only just beginning to flesh out the lore and turn Warhammer 40K into the massive setting that it is today. If you ever played Inquisitor, let us know in the comments what you thought of the game, especially this particular scenario. How did it go for your Inquisitor and their retinue? Yes, this old, out-of-print for many years role-playing game did a lot to establish the flavor of the overall setting today, and that to me is totally awesome.